Here we go, check it. Y'all already know what it is. I'm trying to help y'all learn how to go from general to vertex form. You dig? Taste. Okay, let's get it going. So we got x plus 4 squared, right here in this problem here. If I want to learn how to go from general to vertex, so maybe for example, I'll go ahead and look at this. I'll write this down here. Let's say y is equal to x squared plus, we'll go ahead and do 8x plus 3, right? Let's say I want to convert this to vertex form, right? And vertex form looks something like this here. Ax minus h squared plus k, all right? So we want to change this general to look like something like this right here. This is the standard form for vertex. So before we do that, I want us to go ahead and look at this example problem here. Let's go ahead and do this problem here. This would actually be right now x plus 4. This would kind of be considered a factored form, right? But before we learn how to go from general to vertex, let's just do this real quick, because if you notice, if I want to go from general to vertex, well, we have a perfect square right here. We have x minus h squared. It's a perfect square, so we need a perfect square. So in order to understand that, let's look at this example problem, right? So let's go ahead and look at this and let's see, well, what's x times x here? Well, that's going to be x squared plus, what's x times the 4 here? Well, x times the 4 will give me 4x. Now we go to this 4. What's 4 times the x? Well, that's just going to give me the 4x again. And when what's 4 times the 4? The 4 times the 4 is going to give me 16. All right. So now I'll go ahead and look, and I'll do this out. X squared plus, well, 4x plus 4x is 8x, and then we get plus 16. All right. So if we do this problem here and we kind of go ahead and drop it out, there's something very important to kind of keep in mind, right? Look at here. What do you notice? What can you do to these two 4s to get the 8? Right? What do you notice about that, right? So look over here. What do you do to this 4 to get an 8? Well, you could just multiply it by 2, right? 4 times 2, or 4 plus 4 will give me the 8 here, right? So what can we do with this 4 to get this last term here? Well, 4 times 4, right? We can do 4 times 4, which gives me the 16. Okay. I want us to look at one more example here, x plus 3 squared. Okay. If you solve it out and do it, and I recommend you to take the time to distribute it out just like we did with this problem here, we're going to get x squared plus 6x plus 9. Okay. Well, what do you notice here? Well, like before, in order from this 3, what do you do to the 3 to get to the 6? Well, that's right. 3 times 2 gives me the 6, right? And what do you do to the 3 to get me the 9 over here? And just like before, we just multiply it 3 times 3. Okay? So this is how we can work with perfect squares. So now, for example, let's say I gave you the equation x squared plus, let's do, which one should we do here? 10x plus 25 is equal to x plus blank squared. Okay, let's think about that for a minute. Well, if you look at these example problems, right, we took this number here and we multiplied it by 2 to give me the middle term. So now if I'm starting with the middle term, what can I do to get the number that goes in there? Well, that's right. You just, if it was multiplying by 2 over here, if you took this number and multiplied it by 2 to get the 6, all you would have to do is take the 10 and divide it by 2, and you would get the 5. And that's perfect now, right? Well, how do we get this number on the outside? Well, we just take the 5 times the 5, and that gives me the 25. Right? So we're going to be building upon this idea of going from this direction over here to get a perfect square. So let's scroll down and go to this problem here. Well, I want to get a perfect square, right? I want to get a perfect square. And so I'll go ahead and write over here in the corner. Let's write x squared plus 8x plus blank is equal to x plus blank squared. So just like before in the problem above, what do we do to the middle term to get the number over here? All right. Well, if you look up above, we just divided by 2. So we do the same thing where we take this and divide it by 2. What's 8 divided by 2? That's going to give me the 4. And then last but not least, what do I do with the 4 to get the number that's going to go over here, right? Well, just like before, if you look at the other problems, we're going to get 4 times 4, and that's going to give me 16. So that's going to be the number here, right? So in order to get a perfect square, we would need to have 8x squared plus 8x plus 16, because then this whole entire thing becomes x plus 4 squared. Well, this is a problem because we have a 3 right here. All right, we don't want to work with that 3, unfortunately. We want it to be a 16. So when we go from general to vertex, we're going to add this 16, right? So we're going to go y is equal to x squared plus 8x plus, and we're going to add that measly 16 because we want a perfect square. All right, now this is the tricky part, because if we add 16, okay, we can't change our equation, right? It's kind of like we have to balance it out. We technically cannot change our equation. So if we add 16, we're going to have to subtract 16, right? And now we're getting kind of fancy with the math. This is kind of fancy algebra because 16 minus 16 is just 0. All right, but before that, let's go ahead and finish it off. We still have this plus 3, okay? So I just want you to notice for a second. This equation right here is this exact same thing down below. We have the x squared and the x squareds match. We have the 8x and the 8x match, right? And we have the 3 and the 3, right? But what is 16? What is 16 minus 16? That's 0, right? And so we would just get back to our equation up here, right? So I'm just showing you that all we're doing is just being tricky because we just want a perfect square. Now, if we look here, this x squared plus 8x plus 16, which is right over here, all right, that becomes x plus 4 squared. So we're going to get y is equal to x plus 4 squared. Let me write it with a different color, actually. All right, so I hope you can see that we have x plus 4 squared, okay? Because x squared plus 8x plus 16, which we have over here, is equal to x plus 4 squared. And then last but not least, we just need to simplify this. What's negative 16 plus 3? You could do that on your calculator, or 16 negatives, 3 positives, we're going to get minus 13. And this is going to be my final equation here, all right? So we just saw kind of with one problem how to go from general to vertex form, okay? So let's go ahead and do one more problem, all right? So why not? Let's go ahead and do y is equal to, let's say, x squared plus 10x plus 7. And we want to convert this to vertex form, right? So first thing we always do is, right, what number do we need to add on the outside to get a perfect square? So I'll do the same thing we did before. X squared plus 10x plus blank equals x. Actually, you know what? Let's spice this problem up a little bit more. Let's go ahead and do minus 10x plus 7. Okay, let's just spice it up a little bit. So here we're going to get, now let's go ahead and do this one more time. We're going to get x squared, okay, minus 10x plus blank is equal to x plus blank squared. Okay. Well, just like before, what do we do to this middle term to get the number over here? Well, we divide that by 2. And we're going to get minus 5 right over there. Okay. Now what do we do with the negative 5 here to get the number that's going to go out here? Well, you multiply it by itself. Negative 5 times negative 5, and that gives me positive 25. All right. So ideally, we would want this number here to be 25. So what we're going to do is we're just going to add it. We're going to do it. X squared minus 10x plus 25. But if we add 25, like I mentioned, we have to subtract the 25. And then now we still have this plus 7. Okay. Now I want you to observe x squared minus 10x plus 27. That is right here. And that equals x plus minus 5 squared. So we're going to replace it. This is going to become x plus negative 5 squared. And then we just need to simplify this here. Well, what's negative 25 plus 7, right? is going to give me negative 18. Okay. One way that you could do this in your head if you didn't know, negative 25 plus 5 plus 2, right? This here is going to be negative 20 plus 2, and that gives me negative 18. So that's one way that I do it in my head, just so you know. All right, but that's something a little bit different, right? Just kind of fun stuff. But hopefully that helps to show you, again, how you go from vertex, how to go from general to vertex. Now, if you want to, I recommend go ahead and take this here, y is equal to, right? We could just write it as x minus 5 squared minus 18. I recommend you, just like before, convert this into general form, right? Go back to general form again, and you'll be surprised to see that you're going to get right back to the equation we started with. Okay? All right, take care.